Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am scandalous like an Ashley. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Jack Comics, and they are coming to local comic stores near you. And right now, you can sign up for their email list and check out their sexy comics, Guinevere and the Divinity Factory and Palace of the Golden Princess at pocketjackcomics.com. Email list, friend Preston will hook you up, and if you sign up for his email list, you're getting a free PDF copy of those books. And I got to say, I've seen some of the covers and they are smoking hot for your comic shop. So I don't think my audience will be disappointed. And on top of that, I am also brought to you by my good friends, Jason Connolly and Greg Bo Watson, with their Kickstarter, Living Dead Girl, which is on Kickstarter. And it's cool because it's Greg Bo's first time he's actually designing a character in nearly 20 years. So if you're a Greg Bo Watson fan, you can't miss that campaign. But enough about that, because I have with me comic creator Laurie Calcaterra. So welcome to the
Ta-da.
show.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me back on. I've been on your show a few times. It's always good to come back and say hi and see how things are going.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to have you on, and obviously you got a lot going on with Path of the Pale Rider, the graphic
Mhm.
novel or the collected edition. I don't know how you refer to it, but
Trade paperback, we've been calling it. Just go that way.
fair enough, fair enough. Again, graphic novel, paperback, collected
Yeah.
edition. So it's all
Yes.
the same. It's just
All the
everything's got their little fanciness to it.
all the things.
But yeah,
Oh,
so before we get into this and really dive into your campaign, what is the basic story of Path of the Pale Rider? Because there's people who know you, there's people
mhm.
who have obviously jumped on issue one and then maybe missed issues two, three, and four, and there's people saying, "What the hell's this book?"
Right.
So, what is the basic premise? Because I want everybody to be on the same page before we get into the weeds a little bit.
Gotcha. So, Path of the Pale Rider is a Western apocalypse series where death has been broken. So your body can die, but your soul doesn't leave upon death. You are stuck in it as it decays. So people, animals, insects, nothing gets to leave. And people become chaotic, forgetful, violent as their brain rots in their skull. We follow a cowboy, Jude St. Clair, who's like the last guy who still gives a damn. And he's looking for the answer to what broke death.
Let's get into this a little bit too, because obviously it's interesting to say the least, the
Yeah.
story. And obviously we kind of figure some stuff out about Jude and what he's
Mhm.
doing and kind of his reasoning, and we learn some of his backstory in these four
Yeah.
issues, but we also learn some other stuff. And it's kind of, I think the way I describe it is that it's his journey through this
Yes.
broken world, or at least part of this broken world, figuring out, and his mishaps, his victories, and then kind of figuring out, hey, how did we get into this, lack of a better word,
Yeah.
living
Well,
hell?
it's I've watched a lot of I'm sure you all have watched a lot of zombie movies, and it typically when you're watching apocalypse or zombie, it's more about the survival of the character than it is what caused it. So a lot of times we're watching these movies or reading these series and we have no idea how it started, what started it, what's pulling the strings behind the curtain, right? So that's kind of the purpose of this story. Yes, we get the survival. Yes, we get all the chaos, the heck, all of that. But Jude's path through this broken world is leading him to the answer. He wants to know what broke death and see if he can put the world back together. And he might not be able to do it. He might succumb to an eternity of decay just like everybody else, but, his journey is quite extraordinary, so that's the one we're telling.
Fair enough, fair enough. I don't want to dive too deep into the actual story. Obviously, you have four issues built
Yeah.
out and done already, and I think they were in black and white, and I think the graphic novel is colored.
The
If
first issue was black and white because that's all we could afford as indie creators when we first started. 2, 3, and 4 were in color, but we went back and we remastered issue number 1 for the trade paperback, for the graphic novel. So you're getting your first look of issue number 1 in color in this collection.
So what was that like? Because it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you know Tom Hutchinson, and obviously he
Mhm.
just redid Penny for Your Soul.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you read the original Penny for Your Soul, but the remastered version, and it's not a knock at Tom, because Tom said it himself, where it needed a lot of work to remaster it. And he remastered it, made the dialogue a little better here and there.
Yep.
And so, what was that like? Because when you do a graphic novel, you get the ability to, I don't want to say retrodact, but kind of remix it a little bit, might be a better way to put
Yes.
it. Where,
Yeah.
oh snap, I could have made this a little better. Oh, I missed some commas here or some punctuation, or maybe I want to pick a different word that might work better. Because when you get the ability to re-release a second or third or a trade paperback graphic novel, so what was that like? Because I don't know if you got to do that, or you're just like, we're just shooting it off the way it was published.
No, so the art itself that Marco DeFeo did is the same. So we didn't change that aspect of it, but we had Matt Chambers go in color, and then I reworked all the letters because I was new at lettering for issue number 1. Of course, that was one thing that Mark was like, I don't letter. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm learning how to do this. And then I kind of found my stride with issue number 2, and so the lettering style changed from 1 to 2, and then the same style as 2, 3, and 4. So I went back and I was like, okay, well, we need to reletter this as well. So that way it's, we just want it to look cohesive. We don't want you to fall out of the story because it changes from black and white to color, or the lettering style changes or anything. But we did kind of what you said, where it's like, maybe I want to move the bubbles around and change it so it flows better. Or like you said, take a word out here, maybe reword it ever so slightly. um, I did go back and do that just to make it a little bit better. Having a little more experience under my belt, having now lettered 4 issues and then lettering some work for other comics as well, it's be able to come back and look at it and be like, okay, this makes more sense. So,
No, because it's interesting, and I find it fascinating when people go back into their work. And
mhm.
obviously, I don't change anything in an interview, and I don't go back. I just go forward. And that's my whole thing, is that I want to leave things as they stand. And
Yeah.
I have a very different approach. And even if I was to do comics, I'm like, well, I'm not going to go change it because I want to move forward. I don't go backwards. And I
We
find it fascinating. I find it weird because it's
Yeah.
like, maybe I take a legacy approach, and then maybe I'll have a difference of opinion if I go forward. But as my podcast, and there's plenty of things in interviews in the last 10 years, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I asked that question. How the hell did I do that? And like, if you go back 10 years ago to like my first 20 interviews, you're like, oh my gosh. They're like, hey, they're rough and they're stiff, and oh man, you can tell I'm green. But I digress on that front. But
I was talking to Tim Fling about this as well. He hosts the Creative Cranium, and he was like, if you go back and you look at like the comic where they're introducing Superman, it looks exactly the same. They haven't redone it, they haven't remastered it. It's the campy version it was when it first was released. And it's like people like that nostalgia. So, I don't think we're gonna change the black and white floppy. We're gonna keep that as it is. It might be kind of a collector's item that we roll out every now and again, but, it just made sense for the graphic novel for it to be all in one style, to be all in color, and then the lettering to be all the same. So I didn't want people to come out of the story because things are changing artistically in the story. But that was the reason behind it. That was it.
Let's actually talk about that, because this is where I guess graphic novels versus floppies get interesting, right? So
Yeah.
there's people who only pick up graphic novels because, and I'm sure if you haven't had this conversation with Tom, me and Tom have had this conversation a lot, Hutchinson, where I don't know when your next issue is coming out, if it's ever coming out. And it has nothing to do with you. And I mean you as in everybody in comics,
Yeah.
because unfortunately people do an issue and then they're like, man, this is hard. And then life happens and then they get
Yep.
out and then they get another issue out in a year from now. Or
Right.
they say, look, after 2 issues, I'm done, but their story isn't done. But when you,
Right.
and this is where this gets really tricky, I feel. And so this is why this is interesting, because I guess where I'm going with this question is that the graphic novel or the paperback is a brand new product in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. So you could have made the whole thing whatever you wanted to make it. But then when you go back to the floppies, the same story, but it's a different product. I don't know if that makes any sense. And so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
interesting.
and it's been interesting. This is my first trade paperback, and I'm finding that some of the people that follow the story and the floppies are here on the campaign, and there's a lot of new people as well. So like you said, there's people that are here because they've been waiting for the trade paperback. They wanted it in all one collection so they can kind of binge read the first 4. And then there's other people that are like, I just want every rendition of the book. I'm sure, a group of people that follow the floppies that are not backing the campaign because they already have all 4 issues. You see what I mean? So
So,
it just
yeah,
depends on what people want, but
let's actually talk about that because
yeah,
this is where this gets really, really interesting, right?
yeah,
Where it gets interesting is that graphic novels sometimes do really well on Kickstarter, and sometimes they do horrendous, and
yeah.
sometimes there's massive problems. And it's so complicated because, again, it goes back to, I guess, this debate that do I want a product that I already have, but I want it in a nicely bound collection that's meant to be on my bookshelf, but I bought the 4 issues, or do I want something new? And this is where I feel graphic novels and paperbacks, especially of things that were already produced, struggle. And I don't know how you feel about it from what you've seen or even your campaign itself at the moment. I know you're only like 3 days in, so
Yeah, it's
you
pretty
know,
early. We're
I'm not expecting an
2
answer.
days
Is
in.
the point.
We're
I'm
2
not
days in.
expecting a definitive answer, but like me and Travis Gibb have had this conversation and a bunch of other people, and I've seen it. And I'm just curious what you feel because to me, that seems a really complicated situation when you're trying to do a graphic novel. And then on top of that, what makes it even more complicated is that a lot of graphic novels, from what I hear, don't do well necessarily on Kickstarter, but they do great at comics. And so it
Mhm,
creates a whole catch 22 where I can't produce 200 copies of my graphic novel without Kickstarter, but I'm barely going to make it across the finishing line on my campaign, or I'll do 4 grand when I really need 6 for my graphic novel. And then this creates a whole conundrum, I feel. And this is just what I've seen and heard.
mhm.
I can be off base. And if I am, feel free, everybody, to tell me that I'm off base. But I'm just curious how you feel about that because you're in it.
I think you're spot on. I've seen them do, like you said, both ways. I've seen graphic novels do more than their floppies, and I've seen graphic novels do less than their floppies equivalent. I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know if it's the bonus material, if it's a collector's thing, if it's the timing of it. I've seen I've seen people roll, like, the last issue into the graphic novel, so that way, like, in order to get that last chapter, you'd have to get the graphic novel because they're not gonna produce it in a floppy. I've seen that too. I guess it just depends on the audience and what they're looking for. Um I wanted to do it this way, because the art's already done, so our goal is a lot less. So our goal is mainly just to print stuff, and we already smashed our frickin' funding goal. We hit that 2 hours in, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So at this point, it's just all bonus money. It's like, how many issues can we print in it, to fulfill, and then inventory, and that's it.
Let's
Um
actually let's get into that too, because this is where this gets really interesting about business is that obviously your art's done, but printing a graphic
Mhm.
novel is very different than printing a comic book.
Very
It's
expensive.
more expensive from my understanding. You're printing many more pages at once. It's also a different printing process. I could be wrong about that, but I think a graphic novel is printed differently than a comic is.
Yeah,
But
because 'cause they're glue bound, and they're instead of, like, the saddle stitch staple, those are just printed flat, they fold them. But I'm not sure the process for the glue bound, but it is slightly different. It's different
and then
size.
also hardcover books. I don't think you're doing a
Right.
hardcover.
I'm doing a soft cover, so
But also hardcovers are very different as well, and
yeah.
that's a whole different, beast collectively when you're doing a hardcover book, for a
Mhm.
lot of reasons. But what is this like, I guess, because obviously printing this stuff is different. It hits a different audience, but then you
Mhm.
said something where now the question becomes that how many can you print? And
Mhm.
because if you print 100, you're going to get a different price than if you print 200, if you print 500, or if you dare go crazy and say, I'm going to print 1,000 because I never want to print this book again, you know. Because, but I mean, you laugh, but you get where I'm
Yeah,
going
but
with
it's true. The question is how much can you afford? Because obviously, with the Kickstarter, and then do I wanna invest any of my own money into inventory because that happens? And then do you have the space to put them? Because where are you gonna put them? If you get 1,000 books, they show up on a pallet, they're gonna take over your living room. Is that what you wanna do until you sell them? And then how many cons do you need to go to? Where do you make your money back on these? You see what I mean? So there is a lot of pre-planning and budgeting, but really, where we're just at is we're just gonna kickstarter this thing. We've already hit our goal. We'll see how far it will go, and then I can make some financial decisions based off of the numbers when we end up. So,
because this is the whole dilemma, right? Is that
mhm.
I like buying books and I like buying wholesale. And I always want to win because I'm now entering this space. I'm tiptoeing in slowly. I'm slowly going in. I'm
Yeah.
like 6 inches into the water, guys. I'm 6 inches in. If somebody said, Andrew, if you buy 100, you're going to get price A, and if you buy 200, you're going to get price B, or we'll use better numbers. 25, it's $4 a book.
Right.
50, it's 375, and then at 100, it's $3. I'm
Mhm.
now in a very complicated position because how much do I believe in the product? And all of a sudden, if my profit margin is $10 and it cost me four,
Mhm.
then I get it down by $1,
Yep.
that's a whole dollar more of profit. But when you're dealing with much larger numbers, that's where it gets tricky. And it's also the idea that what happens, what's going to happen tomorrow with printing too. And that's the other thing
Right.
too,
Right.
is that
Because
printing.
that just happened. Last December, everybody raised their prices because they thought the price of paper was gonna go up, and it didn't, but they still raised all their prices. So, it's just welcome to indie comics, right? That's exactly everything you just said is like the business side to indie comics is like your inventory, your printing cost, your merchandising, how do you budget, all of that.
Ratios is a big one.
Mhm.
Ratios.
How many cons, where you make your money back.
Also, even beyond cons. I mean, where are you selling beyond cons? Because I think,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, this is my take, and me and other people have a very different opinion. And I'm watching a lot of Dragon's Den, and guy who did On Chain, Steven, I can't think of his last name. He's like a TikTok guy, and he's a big social media guy. And I don't know if cons are even the answer anymore. That I think a lot of people rely on conventions to sell their books after the
Mm.
Kickstarter. I'm not too sure that's the answer because I think cons are really expensive. I think that they cost a lot more than people realize. And because I think people forget that your table's 300 bucks, you got to stay in a hotel, you got to pay
Mhm.
for your food, you got to pay for gas, and you're working 20 hours and you got to pay for the merchandise that comes in and
Yep.
that you're selling, and that has a base cost. I mean, you're not making a lot at a con. You're really not. Versus if you understand social media and utilize that effectively, I think that's actually the frontier that most indie creators miss. I do.
I think you need to have a balance. There's a few different arms. Cons are one of them, and I think, me, where I'm at, I try to do more local cons, so I don't have to pay a hotel. I usually bring my own food, so I cut that cost as well because con food is expensive. But, so I'm driving, so I still have to pay for mileage. I track my mileage for my business, but, I do okay at cons. I usually sell quite a bit. I also table at, local comic book stores. So that one, you don't have a table fee. You might pay a percentage to the store for tabling there for the day. So whatever you earn, you pay them like 10% or whatever. Um, so there's that, but at least that audience is specifically yours. And I find that a ton of people are excited to support indie when you're like, "Hey, I'm a local author. This is my comic book," and then you get to pitch it to them. And if they're into any of the things that Path of the Pale Rider kind of checks the box, they're usually in. So I mean, like, there's that, and of course, social media. I have a website that I sell from that's starting to pick up. I haven't opened a TikTok shop yet. One of my friends, Thomas Hull, has one and he swears by it. So I'm gonna look into that. But yeah, there's just a plethora of avenues that you should be on, and you'll pick up more. What do I want to say? Your audience will find you on one of these more than the others. So then you know where to spend your time. You should always be trying to develop all the different arms, right? Hey, it's Tom. What's up, man? Also, hi Ryan and hi Chris. I see you guys.
See,
Um,
I'm the exact opposite, right? In which
what?
I love social media. I think it's going to dictate everything. I'm a big AI guy. I think that's going to drive even more traffic, and I just want to find. I'm analytics. So anytime I can find a winning analytic component that's going to get me to the top of the chart and the position, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or Google Ads, whatever it is, I'm big into that. I mean, I'm big into paid advertising on social media too. I have
Mhm.
no problem doing that because again, I look at what my customer acquisition cost is and my customer retention rate is. And that's the
Right.
only two numbers I care about. And I just want to sell directly to my consumers, legitly from my house. And that's
I would
all I
say
want to do because it is the most efficient and effective way I can run my business. And even if I was to do a comic book, I don't think I'm ever going to go to a con. I could be way more effective on whatnot than I could ever be at a convention. And I could sell global.
maybe. I don't know. I think that it's a completely different audience. I think that when I go to cons, I'm meeting people that I'm not able to reach on social media. They're different crowds. So I mean, I like to do them all just because then it gives you a break because you can get burnt out. False, Andrew. Tom. But I think like you can get burnt out on social media and you can get burnt out at doing cons and you can get burnt out on any one thing if you just pound it hard enough. I think doing a variety helps keep me sane. And I'm only speaking for myself. Everybody do you. You know what I mean? If you don't like cons, don't freaking go to cons. Um, because if you're not happy, no one's going to come to you anyway because they can see it. But I think that variety gives me a chance to pull from different energies and learn and develop different things. One thing that I really enjoy doing outside of comics is baking cookies and making hot sauce. And I found that my marketing from the comic book to the food, specifically the hot sauce, they can cross-pollinate. So my hot sauce is Path of the Pale sauce, and it has a sticker on it that shows Big James on it. So it's my big undead bear. And then, so people will be like, "Hey, what's up with this hot sauce?" And I'll be like, "Well, it was inspired by the comic book." And that's a segue for me to then pitch the comic book and vice versa. Like I do this comic book, but look, I also have this hot sauce. So if they're in the cookie crowd or they're in the food crowd, um, they might only get cookies, but there's an opportunity where they could then find my comic book because of my cookies and hot sauce. So it's just really interesting. I'm really looking forward to having that trade because then I can diversify more into the food. I was thinking, because, oh my God, Andrew, I went to Texoma Comic Con over the weekend and I sold all my hot sauce that I made. I was like, wow. So understanding your market, right? I probably sold just as much in the food items as I did in the comics. So if I had diversified my hot sauce, I had different flavors, more bottles, I probably would have made more money. But again, I had most of my table was comics and a very small portion of it was hot sauce and cookies. But I have a big, magazine rack. If I fill it with a trade paperback, very easy to sell compared to buy 1 through 4, explaining all the different issues and all the different variants. I want to sell out all of those and have either just the floppy for number 1 and the trade paperback on the magazine rack. I'll bring issues 2, 3, and 4 as long as I have them in stock because I want to sell them, obviously.
So,
But
so
once they're sold out, I might not be reprinting them for a long time just because why? You can get the trade paperback for $25
So
and
let's
get the
actually
whole
talk about
thing.
this because this is where business also gets interesting is that where you want to direct your consumers to. So
I think it
obviously,
depends on the crowd. Where am I
so,
gonna be? Am I at a comic book store? More comic books. If it's at, like, a Texoma and I find that my Comic books aren't as hot because it's not a comic book community. More hot sauce. I might sell some comic books, but dang, that hot sauce pays the bill.
There that's part of it, and that's interesting, but I even to the point of a trade versus floppies, there gets a position where it's like, "Okay, cool, you know, we've printed a bunch of floppies, and maybe now we are retiring that SKU."
Yes.
Because the idea behind it is that, cool, we now have a
Thank you for
trade,
that.
and I want my customers and new customers to enter on a trade level, and I want to build that, and then maybe they jump onto floppy number 5. If they convert,
Exactly.
or they're a graphic novel trade paperback crew, which is fine, or customer, because there's nothing wrong with that type of customer either. Um,
Right.
because some people say, look, you know what it is? I don't want to wait 3 years or 2.5 years or 2 years. It's easier for me to buy it in one fell swoop. And I'm not a
Mhm.
collector of comic books. I'm a reader. And that's sometimes just the way it is. And which sometimes I'm just saying, I just want to buy a graphic novel and read it. I'm not
Right.
interested in having a bunch of your long boxes full of comics. Because
A long
there
box
gets a
full of my
point
own
where
comics.
enough's enough, right? I don't know how many
Yeah.
long boxes you have, but I have like 20, and enough is enough. No offense
People
to
love
all
it
people, but what?
though. Some people love it. It just depends. You know what I mean? I would love to get Big Dog Ink money. That would be great. If I could pull in a Big Dog Ink campaign, then I could do like a just straight up graphic novel and skip the floppies. There's also the Scout method. I don't want to pick your brain about that because Scout method is like do issue number 1 floppy and then go straight into the trade. What do you
I
think
don't
about
know about
that?
that though. I don't know much about that actually. That this is so are we talking Scout Comics?
Scout Comics, yeah, typically
I
they'll have their creator produce, like, a floppy issue 1 that's 24, 28 pages, and then after that, they don't do individual issues, they go into a graphic novel however long it is.
this is interesting because I don't know anything about this. So this is news to me where
That's my
I
understanding of it.
thought
I could be wrong, I apologize if I'm
no, no, no,
misquoting
no, no, no,
anything, but
because again, what I know about Scout is that somebody will do it on Kickstarter, they sign a deal from my understanding that they can't if it doesn't work out with Scout, they can't do it for 3 to 5 years,
well, that's
and
in the
bring it
contract, yeah, for
that
sure.
but they might do a bunch of single issues, but then they get into Diamond, into comic stores. So Scout handles a lot of the retail side of this, and then somebody can get an exclusive of that book through Scout. And so now you can go and print an exclusive for said book. And but
Mhm.
again, this is not my area of expertise. That's what I think I know. And that's what I've
That's what
heard
I think
and
I
what I've
know
read on
too.
their website. So again, though, that's news to me. I mean, that could very well be the case. You and me both are shooting in the
It
blind here.
could be just one of their imprints, and don't quote me, guys, but from my experience, I interviewed it was a Davy Lee, and, he was doing Benino, and, he was like, "Yeah, that's the method that they typically do." So I'm just taking it from his I obviously I'm not with Scout, so I can't speak from experience, but he
I
did
don't
issue 1, and then they're going into the trade. And that's interesting too because you would think that people if they're unsure, would read an issue 1, and then after that, it's like, "Okay, give me the rest of the story," if they wanna continue to read, and then it would just be, "Okay, give me the trade," which is cheaper than buying 4 issues, so it's like, why not? Right?
No, it's interesting. It's interesting for sure. Again, I don't know because a lot of the scout stuff that I picked up were one shots to begin with.
Mhm.
So they're one shot part one, one shot part two, one shot part three. So
Gotcha.
Granite State Punk with Travis Gibb was a one shot. So that also may be why that's the only thing that I picked up from Scout. So again, I am not an expert in this, but I don't know. It's interesting. Again, I just want comics, and I'll pick up a
Me too,
trade.
damn it.
I'll pick up something that's reasonably priced and what I find to be a good value. So if you
Mhm.
give me 12 pages and you're charging me $50, I mean, we obviously have a problem there. But if you're giving me 64 pages for 30, I think it's a little pricey, but I think it's more in line. I
Yeah, and
think
if it's
I think
something that interests me, I'd be more inclined.
But
to spend the
if
money.
if you're giving me 120 pages and you're charging me 25 bucks, I mean, we're now really in line as far as page value per dollar. I don't know what it breaks down to, but obviously everybody can do the math on that. I'm not a math guy as far as
Your
things like that.
math.
I'm a money guy. I'm a money guy.
We're
Um,
different.
but I digress. I digress. But obviously, I mean, speaking about that, I mean, I view graphic novels are also a game changer at cons to some degree because you have plot development
Yeah.
on the
Yeah, and I've
table.
heard that as well.
So it's interesting to say the least. To say the least. So yeah. So that's fascinating. Did not know that about Scout. Now I'm gonna have to look into this. I'm definitely gonna have to look into this Scout thing.
Mhm.
But I'm not an expert, and I have no desire to enter this sector. But I do actually want to talk about marketing though,
Yeah,
because
let's talk
you got
about
a
some
lot
more.
of stuff going on with this. Obviously, you're working with Inked,
Mhm,
which is an interesting company. Kevin's been on a while ago,
mhm,
and obviously Inked it has a lot of interesting people that they've worked with and done some work with. So, what
yeah,
is this like? Because there is a bunch of creative services popping up right now in this space. There's a bunch of, different people have different approaches. There's a bunch
mhm,
of obviously people who just are bookers for podcasts. And then there's just a bunch of ads, there's a bunch of advice, there's a bunch of courses. I think Madeline Holling Rossi or Rosie.
yes.
I don't know. I'm
You're
sorry.
fine. You're
We all
fine.
know. I think, do we all know who I'm talking about?
Yes,
She wrote the
it's the
book.
Boston Metaphysical Society.
Yes, I can't remember her name for the god love
You
of
you it was mostly it's Madeline Rose Holly Rosing? Yeah.
yes. So she wrote a book on a lot of stuff it's a book I wanna read, and when I have time and to get around to because I think it's one of the best books in this space on this or at least starting out, I believe it is really well
Mm.
from what I've heard, but what is that like to kinda enter that side? Because a lot of people are doing it, a lot of people are offering it, and it's interesting now because I don't know if you need it, but it could be helpful sometimes.
I think you need to find what your strengths and weaknesses are, or also what you are willing to spend time on. Um, Inked is helping me do social media ads. They're doing a press kit. They're doing some other stuff. But I built, like they offer like Kickstarter page and they offer set up your podcast and everything. They offer so many services, but I already do those things myself. So I wanted to utilize them for the things that I either didn't have time or I don't excel at. And so that's the things that I brought them on to do. Um, and it's important to understand your limits. So if you know that you're too busy to book your own podcast, then freaking have someone, get a professional. I hired Jeff Haas when I first started. And he got me on a ton of shows and he was so influential in us being successful in our first campaign. So I think it's important to understand, what services are available and to utilize the ones that you need or that you just don't have the sanity to do yourself. That's important. But do what you can yourself. I mean, save your money because then I can spend that money other places like variant covers and, different kinds of merch.
Let's actually talk about that too, because this is an economic decision.
Mhm.
So I will spend money in my business on certain things. And I've also come to the conclusion that I analyze where I got 14 choices a week on where I could put money. And I
Mhm.
have to say, cool, where is the best use of my capital at the moment in the current environment? And
Yeah.
what is going to be the difference maker? And sometimes I'll put money into this show, and other times I'm putting money into product for my eBay store. And it's a very complicated
Right.
situation where if you're going to have $200, what is the most efficient use for that $200? And
Exactly.
sometimes sometimes the answer is saying maybe the most efficient use is just leaving it in my bank account
That
because
too. Mhm. And
the,
saving it for a future project or future, because if there isn't a clear answer, don't spend it.
Because where I think it's getting interesting, right, is that it's also the idea of, hey, what creative services and who am I going to use and how do I determine
Mhm.
who is going to be the most effective? Murphy, who was with Merc Mag, she has her own thing. Obviously, there's Inked out there. I know
Mhm.
there's a bunch of other people who are independent doing stuff. I think Indie Comics Network does some stuff. So it's very interesting on who is doing what and what they're offering and how they're offering it.
Mhm.
And so what is that even figuring out who to use? Because not everybody's the same.
Well, for me, it was Kevin chasing me. Kevin, he's sold me the bill of goods is what happened, and he kept coming back until I eventually said yes on to something. But yeah, I'm always very leery, I think I paid for, like, an email blast to go out to super backers and got nothing. So I was like, I don't know if that's even a legit email that goes out, and you get, like, the Fiverr scammers, and you get all sorts of people coming at you. So the reason why I looked at Inc. specifically is because of their website. They're with the Better Business Bureau, and there's several people involved with Inc. that I am familiar with. So their editor is Chuck Panu, and then Al Mega is involved in their podcasting side, and then Morgan Quaid is with them as well. So I like all those people. I'm familiar with those people. But even with that, poor Kevin, I gave him the runaround. You know what I mean? So I haven't really looked at other companies, and I'm still trying to determine. I mean, we're only 2 days into the campaign. I want to see the kind of success that the ad campaigns are running because they have their own like vanity URL. So we can track the number of backers that show up to the campaign based off of Inks ads, right? So
You
again, it
want to
just
figure
depends.
out your CAC, which is your customer acquisition cost based on those ads, as
Yeah,
well as, and hopefully they're running these, because if they're not, that would be really, really bad, is understanding who is a backer that you've already dealt with that needs to be marketed to as well. Any good marketer should know both those numbers and
mhm,
should be able to provide you both those numbers in the middle of your campaign or at the end of it.
right.
Um, they should be able to. Um, I know my customer retention rate on eBay, and I definitely know that number, and it's a
Mhm,
very important number to understand.
right.
And you should have that data from the first
Mhm.
4 on your campaign, but
Yep.
this one is your 5th campaign. It's a little bit different because it's a graphic novel.
Right. So it is a little bit different. Like our goal is typically 4,550 for our regular floppies because we're producing art. This one, since we're not producing art, our goal was only 2,000. It's just for like merch and
You're
printing.
you're also producing a different product that
Correct.
your true fans will want. Of
Right.
and people who already have it might not want it, or if there's 10 good
Mhm.
products, you might be number 11 on the list, and it's nothing personal, they already have
Right,
the
if they
first
already
4.
have it. They already know the story, but I think that was important when we put it together. Um, we considered 1, the color, and then 2, the bonus material that we put in the back. We wanted to make sure. Yeah, Lori's fans want pillows just like Carissa's fans want pillows. Yeah, this is true. It's Carissa's fault. I blame Carissa. But you give them what they want, right? So
To a
again,
degree.
putting in the bonus material, I was trying to make it more appealing to people that, even though you have the full story, you don't have a map of the apocalypse. You haven't seen some of the journal entries from Jude St. Clair that are in the back of this book. Plus, we included all the variants and then portions of the script. The portions of the script are really kind of cool because in the last issue, in issue number 4, something happens in like the very last scene that's um it's complicated, and so I think reading the script kinda explains a little more about this character and what their intention is. Um, Because when you read it, it's ambiguous. So reading the script will actually fill you in what happens in that part of the story. So, I mean, we got some good bonus material. It's 148 pages as opposed to 80 some odd pages, you know what I mean? Because if you just put there are 24, I think they're 24 and the last one's 28. You know what I mean? If you just put it together, I don't know, 90 some pages, but it's 148 pages. We bulked it up. So I'm trying to make it appealing.
Let's
We
just
do have, I
get
haven't
into that.
even put it on the
Let's get
campaign
into
yet.
that a
Go ahead,
little bit
Andrew.
more bonus. Let's get into some bonus stuff here
Mhm.
because obviously you do need new content
Of
in
course.
any graphic novel. You need the old content. Obviously, you added the color, which helps probably because this is the first time that issue one's ever been in color.
Correct.
So
Yes.
different experience reading a book in black and white. I'll
Mhm.
recommend one of my favorite books is Scott Snyder's Court of the Owls. So you can
Mm.
read that in full color, or you could read it in black and white with no words.
Oh,
And
cool.
it's an awesome book in black and white because you're understanding. So first off, you're going to read the book obviously with the words, so you understand what the hell's going on. But now
Right.
you're just looking at art and you're looking at somewhat of a script because I think there's an edition where the script's on one side and the page is on the other.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
so now you're looking at the art. There's no word bubbles. There's word bubbles, but there's no words in there. And all you're seeing is black and white. And it is a very different
It's
experience.
gorgeous. Yeah, that but
I'm not,
exactly.
I'm
I
not
think
telling
that
you to
it's
do that yet. That's not what I'm telling you to do.
no,
Trust
no,
me.
no, no, no. I wasn't gonna do that. We're actually doing something similar but different. So I've been hand making these mini books, which are the trade paperback in black and white. But I hand make the book. Like I print them, I bind them, glue them, and cut the chipboard, cut the book cloth, design the cover, and put it all together myself. It's really neat. I enjoy these. So I have this is the black one. I have a red one. I like the different color ones because then I can paint the edges of the pages too. And then when I bind them, the thread inside matches the color.
Let me ask you a question. What size is that?
I don't even know. It's a 8.5 by 11 page and half.
Oh, see, because what would have been so smart, oh man, I'm gonna give you a great idea. I'm gonna give you a great idea. You should have done it in like manga size. And
Mm.
hear me out on that, because I mean DC just did this, where DC just put Watchmen and a bunch of like their top graphic novels in manga size
Interesting.
because they're capturing this audience
That market.
which is interested in manga, and they have all these manga books on their bookshelves because manga collectors are the ones who want those books. Because I'm one of them, and oh, that would have been such a good idea, right?
I still could do that. I might something we could do in the future. And I'd have to get different kind of paper, but it's always a possibility. But yeah, I've been just making a bunch of these. Like this is on the campaign. These are ones that I already made the covers to, but I haven't made the text block yet, so they're empty. But I think there's a few of these left. So I'm only making 10 of these, but people get to customize their own. They get to pick their color. Um,
That's
this
cool.
one, it's hard to tell the difference between these two, but one is blue and one is purple. This one's the
Yeah, it's
purple.
I wouldn't have
Yeah.
guessed.
I
What
know they're yeah, the camera doesn't show it, but this one was Katie Shaw's who does Dragon Child, and she was like, "I want a purple back and a green skull." I was like, "Girl, all right." I was like, only because I already had purple book cloth because I redid the Harry Potter books that I have to learn how to do this. But I was just gonna do them on a like black book cloth and then just change out the skulls. So, but
so
it's been really fun. But again, it's the same kind of thing. Like it's a black and white version. It's smaller, so you can't necessarily read. It's not meant to be read. You know what I mean? Necessarily for the story. That's what the actual trade paperback is for. This is just like a really cool collector's item, and then they're one of a kind because you can't buy anything like this. You know what I mean? Thank you, Anne. Handmade isn't yeah, and you know that it's like a passion of mine. I'm paying, so I could bind my own books, so I love them. You will too, right? And I decided I was gonna write like a cool nice little personalized message to everybody in their book too, so fun stuff. Things I do for fun.
good. I wanna shift out of that. Those are cool though.
Thanks.
I do think it is interesting to say the least. I mean, it's cool because it's obviously a collector's item, and
Mhm.
we're going now, and I'm curious how you feel about Kickstarter. Where I don't feel Kickstarters anymore are retail. They're meant to be a collector's item. When you buy a comic on Kickstarter, it's meant to be limited. It's meant to be harder to find. It's meant to be, an item that you're going to pay more for than you would in a comic shop.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't pay like with some of your variants, if they're 20 bucks, I wouldn't want to pay $20 in a comic shop. In which that if you went to
No.
the market, I would want to pay 4 or 5 for your book. But I also would want the cover A at that price when and hopefully you'd be printing in a much larger batch that would make economically sense. But also be pissed off if Big James, that cover, I think I got number 3, was there was like 10,000 of them out there. I'd be kind of pissed.
Right. Exactly. I mean, like, the Kickstarter stuff is meant to be limited edition. I might print a few extra over than what is fulfilled, but once they sell out, I usually don't, print them again. I think I have one of the variants left from issue number 2, and I have variants left from issue number 3. Of course, issue number 4, variants because that one's just coming out. But I don't have any variants of issue number 1, and people like, "Can you reprint?" I'm like, "No. No, those are done. They had their time, they had their place, and they're all done now." But if you really like that variant, you could go back our trade paperback, and there's a copy of it in there. I also will produce, like, 11 by 17s and 8, some poster size. So if you guys really like the image, you can get that. But I'm not reprinting the the issues themselves
I
anymore.
I think it's an issue where I'm not a fan of companies that really reprint variants and just
Yeah.
have it on demand to make orders where I'm like, doesn't that defeat the purpose of the variant?
Yeah.
Because every time you print so if you printed 50 and then you print another 50, it now there's 100 in play.
Mhm.
But if you print only 50 and then you print 10,000 of your cover A, it changes the ratio of
Exactly.
that variant. And I think the ratio goes up. I don't think it goes down. So just to give a quick analysis, if for let's say your variants were 1 to 5, so for every 5 cover
Right.
A's, there's one of those. If all of a sudden you only printed 100 of cover B, but then you go back and you print another 10,000 of cover A, it's not a 1 to 5 anymore. It could be more like a 1 to 10 or a 1 to 15, which is better for the customer. Makes the book more rare. As
Right.
more cover A's get into the market that you constantly print. So I think it's a problem because I know companies that constantly just print their variants, and I'm like, great, I'm glad I got one that you ordered for me, but it doesn't really help me in value that you can print this on demand anytime you want to.
Doesn't help at all. Nope.
I mean, it
I
helps them. They're making
Yeah,
money.
but it's like printing money. It loses its value.
That yes, 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 yes. That is true. That is very true. That's an amazing analogy. It took me a minute to get it. It took
You
me a
can
minute
use
to get
that.
it.
Go ahead and take it. It's good. Go for
It took me a minute to get that, but I
it.
I do want to circle back to what we were talking about before you were showing me those cool things and obviously bonus materials because
Mhm.
you do need something new. I feel in a graphic novel.
Mhm.
And having a variant gallery is helpful, having script elements there, but also understanding what you want per se in there and what you want to put in there also matters because I personally don't care about a script, but I do
Right.
like variant galleries a lot. I
Right.
really, really enjoy variant galleries because, and I'm a Zenoscope guy, and some of Zenoscope's, books are like 100, 200, $300 covers. And I'm like, I can't afford a
Right.
$300 cover, but I would like to see it. And in the
Right.
back of the graphic novel, it's there. So it's very cool for me when I can at least see a properly printed piece of
Yes.
art in a graphic novel that I might not be able to afford, and I'm not the only
And
one.
it's like, even if you can afford one, you can't afford multiple. You know what I mean? Like, I always have the tier that has all the covers, but there's usually like 1 or 2 people in there, and that's it. Everybody else is, maybe they'll add on an additional cover, but when you have a bunch of different, like my issue 3, we had that William Russell cover with the Undeath by Snoo Snoo. We had the Big James cover that you got, the yellow and red and black. It was gorgeous. We had David Sanchez cover and an Angelo Aquino cover. They were all super strong. It was a really hard decision to make. You know what I mean? And so when people got down to it, it was like, oh, I really want this one, but I have to have that Big James one or whatever. It was this one, right? So, that's why I was like, this is your opportunity to have them all in one place so you can, like you said, have it nice and glossy and beautiful. If you want to put it on your wall, you just let me know. I'll print you an 11 by 17. We'll ship it to you in a tube.
Man, no. It makes sense. It makes sense in which that choices have to be made. I
Yeah.
know, because I'm the guy who buys our print runs. That's a whole different ball game
Oh,
for a
boy.
whole different position. And is it a good thing? Sort of, but it's a bad thing too. Because if you want covers that I buy out the print run on, I'm sorry, but I'm the only game in town. But
That's when you win on eBay.
that's when we all win on eBay. That's when we all win on eBay. But no. If I buy out a print run on a $30 book and I buy all 15, I will usually sell that book for about 70. So it's not. I could sell for whatever I want to sell for,
Right.
and but I keep it as reasonable as possible because I'm looking just to double my money. I'm not looking to go beyond doubling my money, or in that, and maybe a little over double my money, which I think is perfectly fair given that I'm taking risk. But
Right.
I digress. Obviously, you have pillows on this thing.
I
That's also
do.
interesting.
Look. I blame Carissa Grant. I've said it
I have no
before. I'll say it
comment.
again.
Dustin Burnell broke me on his pillows,
Did
and
he?
oh my god! I just he was explaining to me he's probably coming on next week, and his pillows are something else. They're amazing. What he did, he
Cool.
is the
I haven't
ultimate
seen
pillow.
them. What are they?
They're his characters, and
Yeah, but
ah, so let's just say they have extra. So
okay.
he does a tame side on one side and a not safe for work
Oh,
side on
okay,
the
I
other.
see you.
And then some of them have extras in there that accentuate his lovely female characters.
Oh, no.
I told you that
I was like, I got undead bears. You got waifu pillows? Oh, my Lord.
it's a whole new level, and all I know is that good on him, and it's something else. And I was like, I really can't fault you for this because this is capitalism and it's working. But like, I don't know if I'll survive in my household if I bought one. Um, so if you'd like to
How
continue,
do you explain that to your family?
just
Don't.
I'm so excited. I got it. Then you open it up, it's all like shrink wrapped, and it's like just boom.
Oh, my. Oh, my. That's all I have to say. Oh,
I
my.
don't know how I would explain a normal one with a safe for work side and then a not safe for work side, let alone the extras. I'm just like, I'm gonna pass politely. I will politely decline. I appreciate what you've done, man, and I like Dustin, and Dustin's great, but I'm like, I'm gonna have to ultimately decline the pillow, but I'll buy your book. And so we all have it. We all have an understanding. That sometimes some of us are just not able to do certain things.
Right? Oh, my
I'm
gosh.
okay with that. I sleep fine at night on my pillows that are nice and tame and are absolutely safe for work. They're absolutely safe for work. Um, I mean, last time I checked, Pokemon was an absolutely perfectly fine thing for work. Last time I checked. But I digress. Um,
My face hurts from smiling at you this whole time. I'm laughing too hard. Anyway, go ahead.
that's probably the most tame thing I've said. Oh no, that's not the most tame
I'm
thing
just
I've said.
laughing. I'm just
Um,
giggling at you. You're funny.
it's all right. You should see my stand up. Oh my god. You haven't seen me on a podcast in a very
No.
long time.
No, I haven't.
My Friday nights are a lot of fun. Me drunk talking about wrestling is amazing with
Oh,
somebody who
ouch.
looks like my grandfather.
I don't watch wrestling.
Yeah,
I
you
wouldn't
don't
know
watch
anything you were
wrestling?
talking about. No, I don't watch wrestling.
Oh, it's amazing. Everybody's a wrestling fan right now.
Everybody except for me,
It's
sadly.
all right. It's all right.
I don't have time to watch new things. That's the problem, Andrew.
See, I force myself to. I
I don't
force
have
myself
time.
to.
I have
Oh,
kids.
I make time.
I
I
have
mean,
children.
I have a 9 to 5 job. I have this. I have an eBay business, and I'm
You
recovering
never
from
It's the
what?
children. You'll see someday. It's the children.
Oh my god! When I have kids,
Whenever I'm not doing this, it's taking care of the children.
I can't wait to have kids.
I was on Carissa's show on Mondays, right? And they're all talking about, like, watching movies and, like, they're all on this kick about watching shark movies and, like, Tom and Chad Perkins and Carissa, and they're all talking about movies, and I'm like, "Y'all have time to watch movies?" And they're all like, "None of us have kids." And I was like, "One of
See,
these
but
things
that's the
is
thing,
not like
right?
the other."
That's the thing is that what I figured out is that there's a reason why I took this show down from doing 4 a week down to 3, because in that fourth spot, that's when I watch 3 or 4 hours of anime, where I made a determination that okay, I can't do everything. So and then when I have kids, I'm gonna take the show down from 3 to 2.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna happen so that I could still get in me watching a pay-per-view once a month on a Saturday of wrestling. Or I could watch, my anime. Or what I'll do is I'll wake up at 6 in the morning and I'll spend 2 hours watching anime on my Saturday, or before work, I'll watch an episode of anime. And then I legitly leave my house while I'm eating my Pop Tarts in the morning. And I watch an episode of anime. So like I have this thing down to a science. I
Mm.
mean, when I lived in DC, I would come home and before I would do an interview, I would legitimately cook my dinner and I would watch something. I'd watch like Law and Order from the night before. And then I would cook my dinner watching Law and Order. So I get that in. And then I would continue watching it while eating my dinner. And then I would get back to doing this show or whatever else I was doing. So again, I make time for things. But again, the reason why I have time now is because I'm doing less work.
It's kids.
No, you're just you're not streamlining the
No,
process. You got to streamline the process. It's the same thing with the
Streamline the
eBay
kids?
stuff.
I'll streamline the kids. I'll do that.
You
I'll
you
tell
got
them
to teach them to be self-sufficient. That's the problem
you're
here.
too little for that.
You can never start too young. See, you just don't like my draconian methods because it's going to require upfront work, and then when you start seeing progress, it's going to expedite and become exponential, and then you're gonna be like, this actually worked. And what?
Someday, Andrew, you will find out, is all I have to say.
And
'Cause
then,
then
and then,
you'll
and
be
then
like,
you can
"God
write a
damn it,
book on it.
Laurie. I don't have time for movies anymore. You told me. You told me." The day would come.
I'm gonna have watch this. I'm gonna have kids. I'm gonna be watching more movies than ever before.
No, you won't be. You'll be half asleep on the couch. Trust me.
I don't sleep anyway. I'm lucky
Yeah,
if I
but
get
they'll keep
6
you up
hours a
all
night.
night.
What'd you say?
They'll keep you up all night. You just wait.
Oh man,
Anyway, let's talk
that's
more
the
about
problem.
comics and less about children.
I don't go to bed till like 1 in the morning. I wake up at like 7. I'm not sleeping as I is,
That's 6
and
hours. That's pretty good.
6 hours is terrible. It's just terrible.
That's what I get. I get about 6 hours.
Well,
And I look great, don't I, Andrew?
I could lie. Oh,
No, you just nod and agree. That's what you're supposed to do.
I'll
Mhm.
just I'll
Yes,
just I'll just
Laurie.
nod and agree while I cross my fingers.
Mhm. Yes, Laurie.
But yeah. See, the only reason why I'm still safe here is because there is a computer and probably 1,500 miles between us.
Yep. Otherwise, I'll be reaching through. Smack.
Oh boy, so
You're
many things
good.
I could say. So many things I could say. I'm just gonna smile
Nice.
and be an adult. But all jokes aside, I do want to back out of all this, and I do want to
Like, let's
talk.
go back and talk about comics.
Yeah, let's actually talk about comics because I'm curious how you feel about this. Is obviously I feel Kickstarter has obviously evolved in the last 2 years.
Mhm.
Maybe might be a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Being generous, maybe 3. And I feel we are in a very weird time in society for a lot of reasons. I think people don't realize that the war in Ukraine affects supply chains. I don't think people realize what's going on in the Middle East and places like Yemen also affects supply chains. I think that we are in a presidential election cycle. I think inflation has come down, but parts of it have not left and might never leave. And I also think that a lot of the free money that was dropped in 2020 and 2021 and money was
There.
borrowed very cheaply, like 0% interest, is now being massively tightened up and it's going the other way. And I think that puts a very Kickstarter in a very weird position because I think people have to be more selective. And I think people
Mhm.
also are making more choices. I also think there are more choices beyond comics now. And so I'm curious how you feel where Kickstarter is at because I don't know if it's healthy. I don't know if this environment is so healthy. And so I'm curious what you think because obviously my behavior has changed in this sector as a
Um,
backer.
I have seen no, I've been kickstarting for 2 years. So again, I haven't been around for like 10 years to give you the before and after. I'm just kind of in the trenches, right? But based off of that, I've seen a lot of projects. I think that Kickstarter can be oversaturated at times, and that's why it's so important to stand out. You want to make sure that you have a quality product, but you also need something else. And that's kind of where Path excels. We haven't had an issue with funding. We've always met and exceeded our goal because of all the extra stuff that we put in. So we always do the comic, as you know, but we run riddles and we run fan interactive short films. So you get all these extras included. There isn't anything, there's no price increase, there's no stretch goal to hit the riddle. It's just always like there's a riddle on the back cover and what is Laurie's brain going to take us to this time. So um I think thinking outside the box like that has been really beneficial for us, and that's just something that we fell into from the beginning. We always wanted to do more and have riddles and short films, and so that's kinda worked to our advantage. So when the market is tight and the market is oversaturated and we're seeing a lot of creators, even experienced ones that have been in the business for 10 years are all of a sudden having trouble and they shouldn't, you know what I mean? Based off of their experience and fulfilling so many titles and books and 12 different successful campaigns and now this 13th they're one it's an issue. Like I'm curious as to why when something like that happens. Is it because the dollars are tight? Is it because the market is oversaturated? Is it because the product has run its course? Like
I
what
mean, I have a
what
theory.
causes that?
This is my theory. My theory is that I think the way I feel is that I don't know. I can't say who it is, but I know about 10 people who have been laid off of their jobs in the last 2 weeks.
Yes. There
So
there
so
is that as well.
and
It's
so
hard out there.
what I think it is that I think money's tight. I think people
100%.
are now assigning missions to their dollars, and obviously, I run a business that acquires and accrues a lot of debt up front, and that's why I charge a premium on the back end. And I understand that my merchandise has to mature, and sometimes people get that, sometimes people don't. And what I'm learning is that I think that a lot of these creators might have had clout and now that's dissipating, or people are fed up, or people are tired of their product and want something new. And then
Mhm.
I just think that also that there's 20 products out there. I mean, at a certain point, somebody has a Merc Mag and Comics Elite has really good comics, but those aren't in Kickstarter, but to some degree they're equivalents. So that's also what I think too, is that a lot of comic shops and a lot of people have a lot of really good product that's not even on Kickstarter, but it's readily available as a Kickstarter. And so I think that's part of it too, is that there's just so much collectible shit out there
Mm.
that at this point your Kickstarter is competing against Comics Elite, for my $20 or $25 every single week. And
Mhm.
I also think people have been burned and are tapped out. I think people have
Part
been
of that as well, where someone has backed a project and it's been 2 years and where the heck is it? Is it coming? Is it ever coming? Or is it gonna take 3 years to get here? Like, at that point, do you continue backing or are
Wait,
you just done?
let me ask a question. Have you been screwed on a project yet on Kickstarter?
Oh,
A
yeah. Of
as a
course.
consumer as a consumer.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're not gonna name who it is, we don't have to
No,
name who it is.
I'm not doing that, but yeah, it's happened.
So I've been screwed on probably about 4, but back to
Yeah.
120. So it's not a high number, all things considering. And we're talking about a collective of probably about $100 out of the, I would say probably maybe 8 grand worth of projects I backed, 100
Mhm.
bucks, small percentage.
Right.
Hopefully we're on the same page on
Yes.
that. It's still $100 though. It still stinks. $100 is $100.
Right.
I
It's
could have
not
done
gonna stop me from backing other projects, but I am gonna be more leery about anything,
for
with
me,
this
it
team.
slows me down. So if I
It
get
slows you
screwed
down?
on 2 projects within a vicinity, so in 6
Yeah, if
weeks,
they're close.
screw me over, I'm like, cool, I'm taking a month or 2 off. Okay,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean I'm done. It just means that I'm gonna halt the brakes and I say, you know what? I'm gonna just stop for 2 months and then I'll come back in. But what happens is that, let's say I'm back in 8 projects in those 2 months, that's 8 people who did not get my money because
Mhm.
I decided to say,
Mhm.
I gotta slow
Yeah,
down
take a
because if
break.
I stop, I'm slowing down the screw or the bleeding. And I think that that's what I think. And also, I think that's part of it too, is that I think there's just a lot of stuff that people are tapped out and are frustrated. And I also feel that I brought in a lot of comics in the last 18 months. I am exhausted from the
Mhm.
amount of merch that I pulled.
Andrew's
So
tired.
and I'm a little bit of a different case, but if you've been backing and you're the number you back is 150 Kickstarters a year, there might
Yeah.
get a point where you say, "I am exhausted from backing campaigns,
Mm.
and I
Yeah.
wanna slow down to doing 60." And
Burnout is a thing.
that's just a consumer. It's not even somebody who's running a business or anything like that. So you're gonna
Right.
say, "Look, I just backed 150 of these things. I'm tired of backing project after project after project, and I don't have time to read this shit." And I think that's also it too, is that when there was time to do this, people backed this stuff, and I think the thing is flowing the other way now. I mean, that's what I think. But
I
again,
can see it. I could see that too. I think it's a
again,
combination of all the things together. I think projects will continue to be successful. I think that we as creators have to be um, more creative. Got to think outside the box and gotta just keep your stuff new, keep your stuff desirable. There's only so many bookmarks people want. There's only so many buttons people want. You know what I mean? That's why we're doing hot sauce. We're doing the glass tumbler from the glass. I mean, from the issue 1. We have pillow plushies and handmade books and you know what I mean? Like I try to do things that are different. I usually have like secret rewards that are handmade and you can watch the shenanigan videos right on the Kickstarter. You can go see all the different videos. You can see me smash pumpkins. My stretch goals are not only just PDF bundles, but temporary tattoos and 3D printed keychains that I make myself. You know what I mean? Like we try to keep things new and different, and that sets us apart from the typical merch and the typical project. So that's hard to do to constantly be cutting edge, kind of, and thinking outside the box. I poll the audience. I always poll the fans to see if there's something they specifically want. like the pillow plushies. They were all fighting over those. That was amazing. But after that, it's like, okay, what are you looking for? And I'll see if I can get it on the campaign if it makes sense because give them what they want.
It's interesting. So I like to try to give, because I've had, obviously my fans and my audience ask me to interview certain people, and I try, and people
Yeah.
say, but I also say, look, I'm gonna go find the people you want me to interview. We're gonna make it big, and in a year from now, you're all gonna be like, I get where he's going. And that's the
Mhm.
thing too, that also is very tricky, is that how do I get ahead? So obviously I've
Yeah.
had Nixon Noel on, who is Tegan Knox in WWE. And I had her on my show way before she was coming to WWE. I was supposed to have Priscilla Kelly, who's Gigi Don, on. And then, legitly, 2 weeks before I was supposed to have her on, and she rescheduled with me, she got her WWE contract. So I was
Wow. Good for
pissed. I
her.
was pissed. Because I didn't get to interview her.
I know that sucks, but good for her that she got her
No, great,
contract.
great for her. Great for her. She responded back to my email too. I said, "Oh no, I get it. No worries. I know that you just signed your contract. You know, if in 10 years from now you get released, I want to be the first."
Yeah.
And she didn't respond
She's
back
like,
to me,
"Exclusive."
but but the idea is that if that interview is meant to happen, it'll happen somewhere down the road.
Mhm.
Um, but my point that I'm making is that you gotta find also what people want next, and that's a whole different ballgame,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
hard. That's hard,
Trying to predict the wants of your crowd is difficult.
and
And
this is
sometimes it's like throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
this is where AI comes in. No,
Stop with your AI.
I'm a big AI. I'm a big AI guy. I really, really like it. It's. I'm also a big crypto guy, and I was right about that too. Apparently, I was right about that. Everybody, 61,000 is where Bitcoin is sitting today.
Oh
And
my gosh.
I told everybody to buy it at 12. Nobody listened to me. And the only mistake I made is I should have put all of my capital that was free into it. And oh my God, I'd be so freaking wealthy. I'd be
Hindsight
so,
is always 2020.
oh my God, I should have put money on Solana too. Oh my God. When Solana was like $11, it's like 115. But
Mhm.
but I did catch Immutable X at the right time, so that's all right. Mutable X is a gaming token.
Oh, okay. I was like, I haven't heard of that one.
Mutable X is the one of the basic building blocks for crypto gaming, which
Okay.
is its own thing. We don't have to get into that. If anyone wants to talk about cryptocurrencies with me, I'll stay up all night to talk about cryptocurrencies. Um,
Yes.
as,
I don't want to talk about crypto.
as much as Tom likes to defend Star Wars, I will defend my cryptocurrencies. Ex- Exclusively, I will stay up to like 6 in the morning with anybody who wants to talk about it. And
Good
I've
Lord.
had heated
Go to
debates on
sleep,
this topic.
Andrew.
What?
I
What?
said, go to sleep, Andrew.
Oh my
You're like,
God.
I'll stay up at 6 a.m. No, go to sleep, dude. Don't stay up till 6 a.m.
But I digress. I digress. But obviously you run a show, and so I want to talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that, and I'm curious your opinion on where pop culture is going because it's cool to be nerdy now. It is.
Well, I think there's a lot less taboo about it. Um, who was on my show? It was Barney Smith, and we were talking about how the image of the dad has evolved. So like in the 50s, how the dad was kind of like the stoic, non-emotional, would go to work, come home, eat dinner, sit in the chair and smoke or whatever. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't silly, he wasn't cracking jokes. You know what I mean? He was just the stoic
Honey,
leader
could you
of the
get a drink,
family. But
please?
it's okay to be funny now. It's okay to like comic books. It's okay, you know what I mean, to have likes that are quote unquote childish as an adult. So I think things have definitely changed that way. That it's okay to be a nerd, like you said. It's okay to like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and cosplay and Renaissance fair, or however your nerd flavor is. It's okay. You know what I mean? Um, and I think as adults we should welcome that with each other, just because like you get to express yourself and be your true self. Because you get to your likes and whatever when you're a child, and they just develop more as you get older. They can change, but most of the time you just become more of yourself.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's so interesting.
My mom sent me a text message the other day and she was like, "Lori, you have always liked zombies." I was 6 years old and I drew a picture of a zombie with its eyeball hanging out. It's 6. And so she took a picture of it. She found it, the picture, and so she sent it to me and she was like, "You've always been this way." See?
So it's interesting because I agree in certain aspects, but when I was 29 and going into 30, I got a lot more into sports.
Mhm.
Wasn't really a big sports fan growing up, but I'm a big football fan and I'm a big baseball fan now.
I
And
think
so
you could still discover things. Like, I was never into like, I haven't done bookbinding before. I've never done anything like this, but I discovered it now in my 40s, and I
so
really like it, you know what I mean? But
no, no, my
I
point is that I realized that I found out a new love that was not in my childhood, but I'm a super
Mhm.
fan. I'm a super big. I mean, I discovered wrestling when I was in high school, and that was cool too. Professional wrestling is amazing.
Now, it would be weird if you totally disliked wrestling as you grew up, but you still like wrestling, right? It's something that you found
I
as a young person and it developed over time, but now it's like now you have the dollars to invest in that, you know what I mean?
so
Time-wise, go to shows, buy merchandise,
So
consume
I don't like
consume it.
it. I don't like it as much anymore, but I think also it's because it's not my preference as much. So like I'll watch a
Mm,
WWE pay-per-view, I'll watch an AEW pay-per-view, but and I'll watch some of the indies. But like if I'm watching in a given month like 10 hours of wrestling, that's a lot.
yeah.
Versus when I was in high school, I was watching like 25 a week. So, but I don't know if that's because it's just time constraints or if that
Well,
I'm
you
watching
have
a
a
little bit
job
every.
now. You have commitments, relationships. Yeah.
So I don't
Things
know. I don't know.
change.
Yeah, I was just curious your opinion because pop culture has become very interesting. Where it used to be that Seinfeld was like the thing, and now it's the whole big plethora. Where it used to be the Thursday night lineup was that your parents would get you to sleep, right? And they would
Yeah.
pray that they would get you to bed by like 7:30. They give you your dessert. They're like, "Let's
Okay, time
go to
for
bed."
bed. Right, so you could sit down and watch all the shows in a row, and, like, I remember that we would get pizza on that night, and we would just sit and watch, like, one show and then flip to the other channel and watch the next show, and, it's so different now because of streaming, like, there isn't really, like, TV shows that we tune in at a certain time because you don't have to, so that's different, but I think pop culture, it's always gonna evolve. And I do like the fact that adults can nerd out and it's accepted. It's not just a kid thing. It's perfectly acceptable. And there's so many different fandoms and there's so many different ways you can nerd out that you can find your people, because especially with comic books, like being a female writer in horror, there's like me and like Laurie Cunningham over at ASAP and Carissa Grant. And that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty much it in horror writers in indie that I know of. Um, but we found each other online. You know what I mean? Like, I go to the neighborhood picnic and people can't relate to what I do. They usually look at me like I'm strange because I am strange. But my point is like you can find your people if you go online. You can find them, the people that have the same likes and the same nerd flavor as you. So it's perfectly normal to have friends across the country in different states and in other countries that like the same thing as you. And I think that's super cool that the internet was able to bring fandoms together in that way. I have a ton of people on my show from across the pond that will come on and we get to talk to them. And it's like I would never had that opportunity prior to hosting a show, and talking horror and writing and all the good stuff. It's great. I really enjoy it,
You'd be
and I've
surprised.
had all walks on the show. It's entertaining, and I learn a lot, and I give back to the community. I love podcasting.
I enjoy podcasting when my guests show up.
I feel you. I've had no call no shows before too, before a 2-hour live show, and actually Ryan Permission bailed me out for one. And I was like, Ryan, come on my show. I was like, I need somebody. My guest is not
I
coming.
I
Ooh.
was my opening week was bad.
Oh
My
no.
bad where 40% of my guests did not. No. Now that I think about it, I think it was 60% of my guests didn't show up during the opening week of this show, and I'm like, what the fuck?
What am I doing wrong? Like,
No,
where is everybody?
what it is that I don't know. I mean, I'm very selective now on my show. So I ask a lot of questions to my guests now before,
Mhm.
and I'm getting solicited a lot more now.
Yes.
Last year I didn't get much solicitation. Now I'm getting more solicitation, which means that more people need media, or they're like, there's less shows out there that you could get on. And what happens is that I'm like, great, what's your book? Because not, and this is going to sound like I'm an asshole, but not every person is a good fit for my show. And not
No, I
every
get
person
that. I
I feel
100% get that. I've had people that are like, "Can I come on the show?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, you just don't fit my image." Like, I'm not promoting boobs. I didn't promote boobs from the Wheelers. The name of the book is Boobs,
I understand. I have
right?
a relationship
But
with them.
they had a publicist, and that publicist requested if they could come on my show, and I was like, "I'm sorry, it just doesn't fit my image. Like, it's not something that I would promote." So I
Well,
get you, where it's like, "What's your book?" Before you come on my show.
it's not even that. It's almost along the lines of saying, great, you're on Indiegogo and you've done $100 and you have you've
$20?
been going for 90 days and like you have no ability to raise any capital.
Oh, that's
And
so
and
sad.
and it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just like I don't know. There's a reason why your book isn't doing well. There's something wrong here and I don't have the answers for you. And I'm just like, I don't want to have people on who I can't help, A, and B, there's something fundamentally wrong with
With the
your
project.
campaign. I don't, because it raises a question is that what am I missing that I can't spot? And what danger does that present for my show?
Mm,
And I mean it's a fair position versus, and I'll say this, I've interviewed porn stars. There's never ever an issue with a porn star when we're talking about something because I know exactly what they're promoting, how they're going to do something, and what we're going to talk about. And we've had
mhm.
very interesting discussions about masculinity for 30 minutes on some of these, and those things where
Interesting.
people are like, what the hell, how did this happen? And but again, I understand what I'm getting out of the interview on a social media prospectus. And that's the other thing
Right.
too that I have to think about saying, cool, what am I getting out of this? And also, where am I going to promote this? And that's what I think is the issue. And then there's other books that I'm just like, I don't really like your book. Like, like your
You don't
books.
wanna read a book about Care Bears?
I do like the Care Bears, but that's not the point. I also Care Bears are awesome. I mean,
I just picked a random thing.
isn't it about Christianity and friendship and love and respecting thy neighbor? That's what the Care Bears are all about. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, My Little
Oh, nice.
Pony's about the amount of lessons you can learn from My Little
Are
Pony.
you a brownie?
I mean, I signed it in American Sign Language. I read the book in American Sign Language in my class, and it was like, what the fuck? You got me in like a full beard, just doing My Little Pony. I'm like, yeah, I'm Pinkie Pie all the way, guys.
Oh, I'm never letting you live that down.
I should have filmed it. It would. I did an okay job signing it, but I didn't care. I didn't care. I'm in a classroom with 80% women. It's me and my friend who's a good friend of mine held the book, and he's like he's very good looking, and oh my god, it was a great experience, and I just didn't give a fuck. I'm like, I missed GI Joe because we had to have like a meeting for a class project. I'm like, guys, can we do this so I could get to GI Joe? And that was my response. I was like, "You're gonna go see GI Joe?" I'm like, "Yeah." Oh, it was great. College was a
My
fun
God.
time. I should have drunk to class because we were watching a movie in American Sign Language. So I brought like a beer and I just cracked it open and I didn't
In
care.
class?
Yeah,
Okay. They let you drink in class?
I just did it.
Oh, Lord.
I didn't ask. I just did it. Way better. We were watching an hour and a half movie, and I'm like, might as well have a cold one. It's 6 o'clock somewhere.
Oh, my Lord.
What? It was
No
perfect.
comment. I'm not saying nothing. Yep, it's good.
I'm definitely not coming on your show because this is not the image you want to promote.
I'm not judging. I'm just being silent.
That's funny
Silently judging.
because see, but that's appropriate. See, this is appropriate that you silently are judging because in
I'm not.
American Sign Language we couldn't speak.
There you go. So
That
you're like, they were telling me something, I just didn't understand it. They might have told me to stop. I just didn't look.
I was a C- student in that class.
Oh, jeez.
I missed half of everything, and I'm like, "Great, it's not going well.
Oh,
I'm not good
no.
at this. I'm not good at this class. God help me. My eyes are killing me. God help me." It's hard. It's a beautiful language, but it is a hard language. Um,
Mhm.
it is a hard language. But I digress. I digress. Um, but I completely get it. I completely get it. In which I like the Wheelers, but you got to protect your image. I get that.
I don't have anything against the Wheelers, and I don't have anything against those type of books. I think there's an audience for them and everything. It's just not something that I would personally promote. "Hey, it's Pops. What's up,
So
Pops?"
so this is my question for you because obviously in my eBay store I sell a lot of bad girl, not safe for
Mhm,
work books.
mhm,
Those like Mount Olympus, Xenoscope to some degree,
mhm.
Zombie Eats Flesh, Bad Donut, Stupid Little Monkey, that company, and it's bad girl art. I'm not a big topless guy. I kind of
Mhm.
like women with their clothes on that are in sexy poses. I actually think it's some things are better left to the imagination. Is a good way to put
Right. I'm
it.
like, naked bodies aren't always Never
I
mind. I'll just
I'll
leave
be
it
I'll
at
be
that.
honest, I'll be honest. Full frontal and, like, full nude, it kinda freaks me out in comics. It's off-putting. I don't really want to see
All the
a
bits
completely naked woman or a completely naked guy on the cover of a
on the
book, like,
cover.
it's a little weird. It's a little weird to me.
Mhm,
I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it, and I don't carry those books for the most part in my eBay store. Like,
mhm.
to me, it's just odd. But apparently, it's one of the biggest trends in comics right now. And I mean, look, I get there's money to be made, and I'm making decent money off of these books. When you buy a book for 20, you sell for 50, it's a good profit. But I don't know how long it's gonna last, and I don't know how you feel about that because it's kind of weird.
Good day, Sean Keenan from the land down under. I
He just
feel
woke
like
up. He has to suffer between you and me.
what's that?
Sean just woke up and he's
Yeah,
suffering because of you and me. It's
that's
good morning,
cool.
Sean.
Thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Remember, you can pour beer into your cereal, but you can't pour cereal into your
Yes.
beer.
Don't listen to this man. No, don't put beer in cereal. Uh-uh. That's not a way you start your morning. I think that certain covers have their place. Like I have a not suitable for work cover for Path of the Pale Rider. So there's partial nudity, and I think that you, Sean, what is wrong with you guys?
Sean,
Beer
you're
and
always
cereal?
welcome on my show after that statement. You're always welcome on my show.
You're funny. Anywho, I think they have their time and their place, and I think that there's a market for them. I don't know if I would go full nudity. Now that I have one cover, I think that's all I really need. I mean, like, I don't. I'm trying to think if I have any nudity in my comic book. I think I do later, but it's story related. You know what I mean? Like, it has to do with
I
who
don't
drink beers at. of shows?
So I don't have a problem with nudity in a comic. I have
Right.
a problem with
Full
full
frontal
nudity
nudity on the cover.
on the cover.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get that.
I
Is
think
my
it
point, because to me, I think what's going out.
shoes.
What
Sean.
I don't know where we are with Sean.
He's talking about drinking beer out of shoes.
That's okay. You gotta swing the boot, right? If you don't turn the boot at the right angle at the right time, it'll create an air bubble and then it'll
Foot
splash in your
fungus.
face. What?
I said foot fungus.
I mean, I was just talking about a boot, like an
I don't
aqua.
wanna drink beer out of something where there could be foot fungus. Not my feet. I don't have foot fungus.
It's okay. If we need to take you prevention,
Sorry,
I
I didn't mean to derail the show. Anyway,
that's
yeah,
okay.
I agree that the other thing I wanna say, Andrew, about, not suitable for work cover when there's no nudity inside the book is it could be kind of misleading.
Yeah, but isn't every variant now misleading? I mean,
No,
do you know how many Kickstarters have misleading covers? By definition.
that's I don't know if I agree with well, okay, let me just say this. People can do whatever they want with their own book.
Oh, I didn't say it's illegal.
Whatever. But I think that with my variants, I like to have them relate to the issue. There's so many good things inside of my story. You could just pick one. You know what I mean? Pick something, but it has to relate to the issue. So I don't really have anything that's like not related to the issue. You know what I mean?
I don't have a problem with you know. Yeah, I don't know who. I'm not going to say who it is on the air, but they
No, it's
have
fine.
covers that they don't relate to their story, but they're beautiful covers. They're awesome art. There's nothing wrong with the art. It just doesn't relate. But then you also have things that people do that uh, Zenoscope's done this, where you have Van Helsing on a cover for Robin Hood, but you don't have Robin Hood on the cover.
It's dumb.
But it's fine where it's not that big of a deal, but you're buying the cover, the variant for the variant and the artist, but everybody knows the
Yeah.
rules.
Like, they're
So
buying it for the variant art, like, for that specific artist, but it's still, like, in my opinion, it's still at least, again, for my own project, I like it to be that artist, like William Russell, but it's his flavor, but it still has to do with what's happening in my issue.
I think my point is that we at least the way I feel about all of this is that a yeah, I agree that if your book has no
Mhm.
nudity and then you have a nude cover, it's a little weird.
Yeah,
Kind
isn't it?
doesn't fit, but there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not calling out wrongness. You gotta
Right.
do what you gotta do for your project. And you know what is if that's what gets you funded and makes you money, we all have to make sacrifices and we all make decisions based on that.
This is
There's
true.
nothing fundamentally wrong with that because again, it's a trade-off. But
Mhm.
I think it's tricky because who's to say that if you did 3 nude covers and you were doing 20,000, your opinion might change because now at 20,000, but your book costs 4, it's kind
Right,
of
then you have
pricey.
16,000 to kinda keep going.
Now
Would
now
you
now
do
you
it?
just have a lot of money that you're not gonna have a problem where you could fund the next 2 without having to touch Kickstarter.
Right.
So it's tricky, but I digress. Covered a lot of stuff,
Mm.
but I should give you a chance to promote yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Not that you haven't done that already, but
No, we've
can you
kinda
go right
touched
ahead?
on, good stuff that we do, and campaign is running right now for our trade paperback. We have a short link. I don't know if you wanna throw it up in the chat, but it's just www.pale-writer.com.
I have it in the description.
Mhm.
I have it in the description.
Oh, you do? Okay, good. There you go. Well,
I'm a
then there it
professional.
is. There it is, people. And yeah, go check it out. Like I said, we're very smart with the merch and that the trade paperback has a ton of bonus material and issue number 1 in color, which is the first time you get to see it that way. And I'll tell you what, those the end of issue 1, if you've read it and you know what happens with Jude and Big James, it hits a lot harder because of all the red. Dun, dun, dun. Yes. Oh, and Sean, there is international shipping at this point. So it isn't through the Kickstarter, but if you know how the Kickstarter has like the whatchamacallit, on the left side, they have like the little links that'll take you to different parts of the campaign. I have one that's called A Note to Canadian and International Backers. So ASAP Imagination is printing these books, and they do print and ship international. They have a branch in the UK and they have a branch in Canada, and I'm pretty sure that you can get it from wherever. So if you're interested in a physical copy, I have a hyperlink in the story. It says the Laurie Calcaterra collection, and it takes you to ASAP's website, and you can order directly from them and have it shipped to you for a physical copy. If you just want to do the digital copy, by all means, I offer that in the Kickstarter. I think it's $15 for the trade, and it's 148 pages. So there's still lots of goodies in there. There's lots of hot sauce. I have most of the things available as add-ons. So, if you're looking for merch, I know, Sean, you're in Australia, so it's harder for you, but a lot of these things are still available. Like I have one left of these, just the mini handmade books. I put 5 by themselves, and I put 5 in the kitchen sink tier. The kitchen sink tier is just like one of everything. So it has the trade, it has the PDF, it has the hot sauce, it has the books, the pillow plushies, the whiskey glasses, the buttons, the everything. You know what I mean? I think there's 3 of those left. And there's one of the pillow plushies left. So a lot of the exclusives are almost done. We're only 2 days in, so they're gonna go. It just depends on when, people find them. I have this hoodie, this beautiful hoodie that is up there now. I got one for myself, and of course, everybody clamored for one, so I put that up there. There's also a T-shirt, same color. It's just a T-shirt version of this. The whiskey glasses are super cool. It's a 11-ounce glass tumbler with the map of Las Vegas etched into the glass. And if you've read issue 1, Jude St. Clair finds one of these glasses on the road, picks it up, and then it smashes in the road and wakes up Big James. So it's that glass. That's for real glass. We found them, and you can get a set of them if you want. I got them in my add-ons as well. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. But yeah, all the money from the campaign is going towards printing and a little bit to merch, of course, shipping and fees from Kickstarter. But feel free to shop around. There's lots of good stuff. You can see a plethora, I like that word, of our short films that have already been completed. You can see all of the riddles that we've done for the back of the floppies. There's just a lot of cool stuff that you can interact with on the Kickstarter page as well. We unlocked one of our first stretch goals, which is the indie PDF bundle. And I'm doing these a little different this time. I used to just unlock all 20 at the same time, but it was just all like a mishmash of indie comics. I'm doing them by like a publisher. So, for example, any One World bundle, there's 5 comics. I have to upgrade the graphic. But there's 5 there. And if you're interested, I have a link that will take you to the website where you can read more of these. You know what I mean? And then like the next one we're going to unlock is the Charter Comic bundle. So same thing. I'll put the link for chartercomics.com. So if you find like you really like the Ferryman or you really like Psycho Sal, there's more of these that you can read. You can just click on the link and it'll take you right there. So I think what we're going to unlock next is the first poker card is my guess. So at 50 backers, we're going to unlock a poker card. We've been building this poker deck every campaign after 50 backers. We started this at the end of campaign number 3. So we've unlocked 3 cards, the King of Hearts, the Ace of Hearts, and the 10 of Hearts. The first card I'm going to release on this campaign is one of the Jokers. And it's super cool. And I can't wait to flip it over. So if y'all could come get some backing in, then we can get there a little quicker and I can reveal what's coming up next. But Every 50 backers will release another card, and we can continue building this 52 card deck. If you've missed any of the cards, they're available in the add-ons. So it's a great time to find us because the trade paperback will let you binge read the story from, when we started until now. Plus, you get all the bonus material. Plus, you can pick out hot sauce or tumblers or pillow plushies or handmade books. Like, we have super cool merch. And you get to, start building your poker deck. You don't get to miss any cards. So, all good stuff. I'm looking forward to some of the other stretch goals, which are 3D wood printed keychains, which I print myself. The slice and dice, where you get to name a fruit or vegetable and I smash it on my live stream. Actually, you get to pick the weapon too, Andrew. It's like I've had a Filipino short sword, and I've done a sledgehammer. I've done a sock, a soup can and a sock. Like, we destroy the heck out of these things. It's fun.
Have you done a
I have
Nerf gun yet?
what?
Have you done a Nerf gun yet?
Nerf gun. I want to actually destroy it.
Hear me out on this. So what you do is that you have to find like a deck that's like 10 feet above, and
Oh,
then you get your Nerf gun and then you shoot it off. But you don't just pick one, you get like 4 watermelons, and then you just like shoot it off, and then you have the camera with you on one side, and then you have to have a camera down below so you capture both, and you could do that on StreamYard, and it'll be amazing. Because they'll get to see the whole
I
thing.
like that idea, but I don't have a balcony like that because it's pretty flat here in Texas.
You gotta
However,
find one.
I
Who said this was easy?
could.
You have
No,
to
there's a
raise the
deck
stakes.
in the community somewhere, so I'd have to like pre-film it. You know what I mean? I couldn't do it live. I'd have to film it on location and then clip it and put it into the
You should
live
absolutely
stream.
do that. You should absolutely do. You
Yeah,
gotta raise the stakes. You
that's
gotta
an
raise the
idea.
stakes.
We can let gravity be our weapon.
You
I'm
gotta
gonna
raise
do
the
it.
stakes. You get like a Nerf gun, and then like you could like get like one of those like pistols, like a cowboy pistol, and then you could like
Oh, I'm doing that. I can
you
wear
could
my
like
cowboy
do
hat.
like a duel. Oh, it'd be great. It'd be great.
It's
You could like
fun.
be like in your cowboy hat and the shirt special. It'd be great.
Challenge accepted. We'll just say
I'm
that.
giving you good ideas tonight.
I like it. I also have temporary tattoos and hot sauce packets and enamel pins. Like, if we get far enough, we can unlock all of these potentially. So, all good stuff. So, I would say definitely come check us out. We got lots going on. The Kickstarter is full of things. My welcome video was only a minute long this time. It's still full of shenanigans like it always is, but I don't get run over by a car in this one, and I don't have any nosebleeds or explode. So, but I get
Enough.
shenanigans.
Fair enough. And I'm just gonna keep saying it. I'm gonna say it
Fair
over
enough.
and over. You gotta support indie. What that means is you have to go back projects, especially in comics and other areas that you like that are asking for money. Because if you want that stuff to be made and to continue to be made, you gotta go back and then support it. Or if you're tight on money, a share goes a long way. A follow on
It
social
goes a
media goes
long
a long
way.
way. All that stuff matters. And so I'm gonna keep saying it. And then as far as I'm concerned, I am Pop Anime Comics on X/Twitter, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube, Pop Anime Comics on TikTok.
You
I
see a
am
pattern? You see a pattern?
I am Pop Anime Comics Collectibles on eBay. So
Oh,
that is very cool, and this is what you want to look for on eBay. That
yeah.
URL down below is if you're looking for comics and collectibles, come shop with us on eBay. Definitely something out there. If you want to do business with me, obviously I consult and I can help people in a lot of ways. Advertising, if you're just looking for interviews, I'm always down. You can reach out to me in that regard. I'm always more than happy in that position. And then just so that people understand, I do have some very cool merchandise in my store. I am still waiting on these books to arrive. They are going to be in holofoil. I have all 15 of that book. This book just came today, and I have all 15 in holofoil of that book. I have another one that I can't show yet that's coming that I have all 10. It is a Shikari. It is a Shikari holofoil that I bought out the print run on. Very cool book. And then I do carry a bunch of cards, and this card is sometimes hard to see. I didn't see anything. Did anybody else see anything? I didn't
Nope.
see anything.
Saw
I didn't see
nothing.
a thing. I didn't see a thing. And a bunch of people, when they get those cards, they're gonna be like, "Where's my card?" They can't see it, and I'm like, "I can't see it either." And I'm like, "This is a dilemma. It's a dilemma." And it was very interesting. I was watching this
Funny.
Logan Paul interview, and I couldn't see his guest. And they were talking, and I heard the guest, but I couldn't see the guest. And it was very, very upsetting to me. And I counted like 10 times during this, and I'm still waiting for Logan Paul to fix the situation. And,
Oh my
he's not
gosh.
doing it, but he did do a very, very good drawing of Kevin Owens in the Elimination Chamber. That's all I have to say about Logan Paul. But yeah,
It's
so
silly.
that's everything. My eBay store is cool. So in all seriousness, though, if you are looking for rare comic books and cool collectibles and things of that nature, my eBay store has a lot of stuff in it, and I do have a lot of books that are really, really hard to find right now, particularly in the Taylor Swift sector. So I do have a lot of those books, and the things that Shikari's done, Greg Horn's done. Those books are sold out, and they are very much desirable. And I do have a bunch of those. So, if you're looking for those books, I got you covered. But that's everything that I got, and I'll give you the final word.
So I just wanted to say, in the apocalypse, swords don't run out of bullets.
Okay,
That's all I got.
that
You're like,
that
really?
works.